Forests have always been places of mystery and wonder, vast expanses where the dense trees and shadows seem to conceal secrets. For centuries, tales of monstrous beings lurking in the woods have captured the imagination of people around the world, from Bigfoot and the Yeti to tales of ancient spirits and creatures of myth. The idea that forests might hide unknown beings has become a part of our cultural landscape. But are these stories based on real encounters, or are they simply products of our fear of the unknown? The belief in creatures inhabiting the deep woods is as old as storytelling itself. In Europe, legends of werewolves and wild men were common, describing human-like creatures that roamed the forests, half man and half beast. Capable of great strength and ferocity, these tales often served as warnings, cautioning people to stay close to their villages and avoid venturing too far into the wilderness. Similar myths appear in cultures around the world, such as the Yeren of China or the Orang Pendek of Sumatra, both described as ape-like creatures that remain hidden deep within the dense jungle. In North America, stories of Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch, have been a fixture of folklore for centuries. Indigenous peoples spoke of large, hairy creatures that lived in the remote forests, avoiding human contact but sometimes seen from afar. These stories took on new life in the 20th century when supposed sightings, blurry photos, and footprint casts emerged, suggesting that something unknown might be inhabiting the wilderness. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, the legend of Bigfoot has become a cultural phenomenon, inspiring countless expeditions and investigations into the possibility that such creatures could exist. The allure of these tales lies in the fact that forests, with their shadows and hidden depths, are places where the human mind can easily imagine unseen dangers. The rustling of leaves, the crack of a branch, or a sudden movement glimpsed through the trees can all be enough to trigger our ancient instincts, making us wonder what might be hiding just out of sight. It's no surprise that many encounters with supposed monsters take place in isolated forested areas, places where the unfamiliar feels even more unsettling. But are these stories merely a reflection of our fears? Or could there be a grain of truth behind the legends of creatures that dwell in the woods? As we explore modern reports, scientific perspectives, and the ongoing search for evidence, we must consider what might lie at the intersection of myth and reality. While the stories of monsters lurking in the forest have captivated people for generations, modern science offers alternative explanations for many of these tales. Yet, the question of whether undiscovered creatures might roam the wilderness remains open, largely due to the sheer vastness of the world's remote forested areas and the enduring reports from those who claim to have seen or encountered something unusual. One of the most intriguing aspects of the search for forest-dwelling creatures like Bigfoot or the Yeti is the possibility that these beings could represent unknown species of primates. Scientists have occasionally discovered new species in remote regions, such as the Sola, a rare antelope-like mammal discovered in the dense forests of Vietnam in the 1990s. This has led some cryptozoologists, researchers who study hidden or unknown animals, to believe that if a large primate-like creature existed in the vast forests of North America or Asia, it might remain hidden due to the dense vegetation, difficult terrain, and limited human presence in these areas. However, mainstream scientists remain skeptical of these claims, pointing to the lack of physical evidence such as bones, remains, or verified DNA samples. The most famous piece of alleged Bigfoot evidence, the 1967 Patterson-Gimlin film, has been analyzed and debated for decades, with opinions divided on whether it shows a real creature or an elaborate hoax. Skeptics argue that the absence of a body or reliable biological samples makes it highly unlikely that such a large creature could exist undetected in the modern world. Yet, despite the skepticism, sightings and encounters continue to be reported. In areas like the Pacific Northwest of the United States, the Himalayan foothills, or the remote jungles of Southeast Asia, people claim to have seen large ape-like creatures or heard strange, unidentifiable sounds at night. These reports often come from hunters, hikers, or residents familiar with the wilderness, lending an air of credibility to their accounts. The consistency of these reports across different cultures and regions adds to the mystery, suggesting that there may be more to these stories than mere imagination. Some researchers propose that what people perceive as forest monsters could be misidentified animals, such as bears or other large mammals. In the dense underbrush, even familiar animals can appear strange when glimpsed at a distance, particularly in low light or through thick vegetation. A bear standing on its hind legs, for instance, can appear strikingly human-like in silhouette. Additionally, the phenomenon of pareidolia, where the brain perceives familiar shapes, such as faces or figures, in ambiguous patterns, can cause people to see creatures where none exist. Others suggest that the stories of monsters might be a psychological response to the isolation and eerie atmosphere of deep forests. When alone in a remote area, the mind can become hyper-aware of every sound and movement, leading to heightened senses and a tendency to interpret natural noises as something more sinister. This could explain why so many encounters seem to occur when individuals are isolated or in unfamiliar territory, where their imaginations are free to roam alongside their fears. Despite these rational explanations, the allure of the unknown keeps people searching. Expeditions equipped with trail cameras, drones, and recording devices continue to venture into the wilderness, hoping to capture definitive proof of creatures like Bigfoot or the Yeti. While most of these efforts yield little more than blurry photos or unexplained sounds, they keep the mystery alive, suggesting that the possibility of something unknown lurking in the forests remains an open question. As we explore further, it becomes clear that the stories of forest-dwelling monsters are not simply about whether such creatures exist. They are about our enduring fascination with the unknown and the way that untouched wilderness invites us to confront our deepest fears and hopes. Whether real or imagined, these tales remind us of the mysteries that still linger in the shadowy corners of our world. The fascination with monsters that may roam the forest is about more than just the possibility of undiscovered creatures. These tales tap into our deep-seated curiosity about the natural world and the unknown, serving as a bridge between ancient folklore and modern-day mysteries. They invite us to wonder whether, in a world mapped by satellites and scientific exploration, there might still be places where the boundaries of knowledge blur into myth. Culturally, the idea of forest-dwelling monsters speaks to our age-old relationship with the wilderness. For our ancestors, forests were places of both sustenance and danger, sources of food and resources, but also home to predators and unknown threats. Myths about creatures lurking in the woods served as cautionary tales, encouraging respect for nature's power and a healthy wariness of the untamed. Today, these stories persist because they echo that primal sense of awe and fear that the deep, shadowy woods can inspire. In North America, Bigfoot has become more than just a cryptid. It's a cultural icon, symbolizing the mystery of the untamed wilderness. Festivals, merchandise, and documentaries keep the legend alive, turning Bigfoot into a figure that represents our desire to believe that the world still holds secrets. Similarly, in the Himalayas, the Yeti, sometimes called the abominable snowman, is tied to local beliefs about mountain spirits and the sacred nature of the high peaks. These figures remind us that even as science advances, there is a part of the human spirit that craves the unknown and the thrill of imagining what might lie just beyond our understanding. The idea of forest monsters also resonates with themes of environmentalism and the preservation of wild spaces. As humans encroach further into natural habitats, the notion that we might be driving unknown species deeper into hiding takes on a new significance. For some, searching for creatures like Bigfoot is a way of advocating for the protection of remote areas, ensuring that the mysteries of the wild are preserved for future generations. It becomes a symbol of resistance to the idea that every corner of the earth can and should be conquered, suggesting that some mysteries are better left unexplored.